Yo, what is up? Welcome to Ninja Geek Games. I'm a big fan of story-driven games with exploration, challenges and character development. Destinies claims to have all this within a dark fantasy setting that is fully supported by an app. In this game, you take on the role of a hero to piece together parts of your destiny by travelling the land and engaging with a variety of NPCs and taking on various encounters and creatures, where the game culminates in a finale specific to each character in the game. As Destinies requires an app, it therefore supports solo play. So in this video, I'm going to review whether the story-driven adventure is great for solo gaming or no gaming. Basically, I'm reviewing the game for solo play. If you enjoyed the video and the pun, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Let's see what you get. The game comes with a lot of content, which is always encouraging for an adventure game. We have a large stack of map tiles that are double-sided with a fog of war-like image on one side representing the unexplored areas of the game, and a nicely illustrated explored side showing various locations like villages, farmsteads and forests. The item stack is huge, with over 150 cards of various types of equipment, trinkets and animals to name a few, with multiple copies of some of the cards. You'll notice that these cards have a QR code, and this is because they interact with the app during the story you're playing. These Destiny cards are the heroes that you'll be playing during the game, such as the Witch, Soldier and even a Corruptor. Again, QR codes are required when you interact with NPCs during play, and each of these cards is double-sided with your destiny or quest on the reverse. So as not to spoil the game, I'm not going to show you this. The player boards are awesome, with thick card stock and indented areas to store your supply, skill tokens and an inventory area to store the item cards once claimed. There are two types of dice in the game. The oversized main dice have values of 1 to 4, and the effort dice act as a buffer with face values of 1 to 3. There are also loads of nicely detailed tokens for coin, experience, skill tracking, and those that mark areas of the map, and again these are nicely detailed in thick card stock. Lastly, the miniatures, a whole horde of them. Most of these are very small, like 20mm to include your heroes, NPCs and creatures, and others are quite large like this beast, but I'm not going to discuss the various types for fear of spoiling the stories. The components are great, exactly what I'd be expecting for a game of this genre. As mentioned, tokens and player boards are of good cardstock, the map tiles are nicely illustrated, and the miniatures, although small in most cases, are well detailed, and there are loads of them. I really like the player boards. They are well designed with an indented area to store your hero, dice and coin, and although it can be overfilled at times, it still looks really good. But how does the game play? Well, firstly, it has a number of game modes. At multiplayer, 2 to 3 players take on the role of heroes in a competitive game, or you can team up in a 2v2 game. But I'm here to discuss solo play. Why? Yep, I still have no friends. Firstly, the game is controlled by an app that can be downloaded from Google Play, Apple App Store and Steam. I was a bit frustrated I couldn't use my Kindle for this, so I had to play on my phone. I just wanted a larger screen to use, but this is fine and the app is easy to navigate. However, there are only 5 scenarios to play through, where the first is more of an introduction, but the game is not campaign based, so there is no character progression between scenarios. Instead, you take on a different hero each game. In solo play, you have 2 game modes to choose from. These are Challenger and Explorer that offer slightly different styles of play. Explorer allows you to progress through the selected scenario with no time constraints or in-game events, some light adventuring if you will. Challenger mode offers you, well, more of a challenge. It's not just a clever name. Here you have a set number of turns or days in which to complete your destiny that may be increased based on your actions. Regardless of which mode you choose, the gameplay is similar. For each scenario, you choose one of 3 heroes to play, and each has 2 destinies. The destinies are your hero's personal quest, and you can complete one or both in order to trigger the endgame finale. To do this, you will have to talk to NPCs like traders, knights and thieves, overcome challenges using your skills and dice, or with equipment you've claimed from merchants or stolen from hapless widows to progress further through the story. So I've set up here with some random tiles and components not related to any specific scenario in the game. Each turn is represented as a day, and you will have just 2 actions where you can move about the map revealing tiles as you do. The The app will inform you as to what is present on the tile in the form of tokens for buildings, camps and terrain, as well as minis that you can interact with. It also shows how the map expands with your unexplored tiles, showing your options for exploration in later turns. The app may also provide hints as to what you can find at that location. The other action is to visit one of the locations on the tile or interact with an NPC. So for the actions, that's essentially it. Pretty simple. Once you've taken those two actions, your turn is over and you prep for the next day. Each of the scenarios have completely different stories that are quite immersive, and I enjoyed the subplots. As the map expands to include more and more minis and locations, it looks pretty good on the table, and each scenario has a map of different shape and size, with tiles neatly linking to those adjacent, and the artwork ties in nicely with the theme of the story for that particular scenario. The main aspect of the game is interaction with all the location and NPCs that you've revealed. They're not there just to make the game look pretty. To do this, you just click on the area of the world map using the app and you are provided with a number of options. You can ask about your destinies, buy and trade items, take on encounters or challenges, as well as follow and unlock further options based on your selection, each with a little narrative. Some of the mechanics here are quite intuitive. You can ask about your destiny or complete a challenge just by having the correct items in hand, where the app will prompt you to scan the QR codes on the card and provide you with additional narrative that can provide further hints and clues to your destiny or to overcome a challenge, to pick a lock for example. Some encounters allow you to visit places of trade, a local merchant or blacksmith, where you can look to gain equipment. Here the app lists a number of items from the deck. As with map tiles, these cards are numbered, and if ordered correctly, you can easily locate and draw them to form a trade stack. What I like here is that you mark the game area with a trade token, where a matching coloured token is then placed onto the trade stack. This means at times you will have multiple trade stacks located around the map from various NPCs, all offering different goods, where you can clearly identify their location and associated items. The items may have reactive abilities, a one-off bonus, or provide keywords, allowing you to complete quests and challenges. Speaking of which, challenges involve skill tests that require you to roll dice. At the start of the game, the app will dictate where the skill tokens are placed on the three tracks, which are intelligence, dexterity and power, and this will be different for each hero. To carry out a test, you are first informed as to which skill must be used, and in this instance we're going to use power, perhaps we're in battle. You roll two main dice, sum the value and compare this result to your skill track. For each marker at the level or equal to the value of the dice for that skill, you score one success. So here I've rolled 4, so I have one success that's entered into the app. I think this is a great mechanic for a number of reasons. Firstly, some equipment can modify your rolls, so you can elect to use them based on your outcome. Secondly, you get use of 3 effort dice. These start the game out of your inventory, but each new day, or as reward for certain actions, they can move onto your player board, where you can then add them to your test roll, but they become exhausted and you can't use them again that day unless you can find a way to reclaim them. These dice also have one face showing an automatic success, and so here we have a push your luck element. Do you use equipment to pass the test, or save it later and roll the main dice? But how many effort dice are you going to use, because a successful challenge may lead to a tougher one, and this is where character development supports your decision. Rewards for certain actions and challenges, gaining experience or starting a new day can reward you with levelling up. To do this, you move your skill tokens down the track. Sometimes you can choose which track, other times you'll be instructed as to which particular skill to move. But the result is the same. You will gradually start to have more and more of your tokens at the lower end of the track, allowing you more successes during your test rolls. Each track has 3 or 4 skill tokens, meaning you excel in some, not so much in others. But this means a good or lucky roll with effort dice and or items can push your roll so you have a large number of successes, which is quite rewarding. These tests and character development mechanics are probably my favourite part of the game, as it can be a tough choice as to which skill to improve and how to approach tests, and the game generally culminates in a multi-skill check challenge once you've met the requirements of your destiny. So, the game offers exploration, interaction, character development, and a story-driven app that is very simple to use. This all seems great, but what does it mean for solo play? Well, firstly, I wouldn't play the Explorer mode. To me, it doesn't feel a game. It reminds me of those adventure books you had as a kid that had options for turning to pages based on your decision. But if you didn't take your finger off the previous page and weren't keen on the new outcome, it didn't count, right? The Explorer mode, you're just hopping from tile to tile, interacting with every possible location and NPC until you've exhausted the game's options and decide to carry out the finale. For me, this wasn't fun, just a nice story, and that's about it. If you then decide to try the Challenger mode, you'll already be aware of the world map, the locations, and so you've taken the excitement out of the game, except you would get in-game events which were welcome. In this respect, Explorer mode was similar to Dune House Secrets, although Destiny sits way above that for gameplay. The Challenger mode is where you want to start, although it can be tough, where you've spent a lot of options early in the game and you can run out of turns quickly. I can only assume in multiplayer the map would open up more quickly due to the increased player count, so you'll have a better understanding of the locations you need to visit. You don't have that in solo play. Sometimes you'll get a hint to travel north, which is fine, but at times you may move to a tile with 2 locations and none offer what you really want and you've wasted 2 days. Although each scenario has an immersive story, tile interaction is fun and the character development and tests are great, I feel the game was a little lost to me for a solo adventure game. Don't get me wrong, it plays well, but getting far into a scenario only to run out of days is frustrating because once you try again, most of that game becomes a reflex based on your previous knowledge of what's to come and where to go. So the replay value is quite non-existent, where it's not going to take you too long to complete all 5 scenarios. I'd like to try this multiplayer as I think the game may shine in a competitive mode, but I'd certainly have some advantage over other players new to the game, so I have to consider how fun that's going to be. For a light adventure game, it does have some solid areas, but for solo play, it's a bit too light for me. I don't dislike the game, I was just grasping at things I wanted that weren't quite there. However, I do feel it'd be a very good introductory adventure game for new or younger players that would lead them onto the likes of, say, Runebound, as it does have the makings of everything I like in adventure games, but for solo play, I don't think it's be hitting a top spot for me, although I am glad I played it. If you've played using the multiplayer mode, please let me know what you thought in the comments. This is Ninja Geek Games. Cheers.